Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm here doing a story time. I had Vivian play a game and I'm doing a voiceover where I do a story time. And this is part 3 of this series, so if you have missed the rest of them, you definitely are going to want to go back and catch up. So I had left off in 2016, actually it was probably 2017 by this point, when my ex-husband had allegedly ended the affair with Kelly, my husband at the time. And so probably around, I don't know, maybe September or October, I got a phone call from my sister, and she was hysterical because one of our dad's friends had saw her in the bar and had said to her, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about Tony's divorce." And my sister was like, "Tony's not divorced. She's not getting divorced. What are you talking about?" And this guy was like, "Oh my gosh, what?" And he tells my sister that my husband is very openly seeing a woman at work, like dating a woman at work. Their relationship is not a secret. Everyone knows about it. They're dating. And so my sister calls me just absolutely hysterical. So I played it off like it was no big deal, and "Oh yeah, I already know, it's over, don't worry about it, I took care of it, blah 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 blah." And my sister was like, "Oh, thank God, I was so upset." And her and my husband were pretty close, so I just kind of pretended like it was no big deal and I already knew about it and it was done, and it hadn't been that major. And so she took my word for it, and she was like, "Okay, that sucks, that's terrible that happened, but I'm glad that it's all done." And so then I said something to my husband, and I was like, "Hey, it's kind of weird that this guy that works with you, that you did not know was a friend of my father, but he knows who I am, and he knows that you're my husband, just told my sister that we're getting divorced." And so he, of course, "Oh, that guy's nothing but a lying drunk." And I was like, "Okay, you don't get to say that about him, but sure, I'm sure that's exactly what's going on here." And so I just kind of kept that in the back of my mind, but I didn't do or say anything about it right then and there. I mean, aside from bringing something up to him and asking him what the heck was going on. So then I'd say probably November, maybe early December, I get a phone call, or a text actually, super, super, super early in the morning, from one of my friends who also happens to work at the same place as my husband. And she tells me, "Hey, please don't be mad at me for saying this to you. Like, I don't know what else to do, but I just saw Bob," which is my husband, "making out with some girl at work." And right away I was like, "Oh, is it Kelly?" And she was like, "Yes, like what the heck is going on?" I was like, "Thanks for letting me know." And at this point I'm mad. I'm like, "You know what? I'm done with this. We're not doing this all over again. Like, this has been almost 2 years of this now." And so I decide to not say a single word to my husband, and instead I go on Facebook and I find the brother-in-law of Kelly, her husband's brother, and I message him and I say, "Hey, I don't know if this is going to reach you, but I've been trying to get a hold of your brother." I give the brother's name, and I say this is his wife, and I give the wife's name, Kelly. I can say Kelly, but I use last names too. And I said, "She's having an affair with my husband. This is his name. This is how long it's been going on. Why don't you have him give me a call? And I sent it. And minutes later, I get a, oh my God, okay, I'm going to send this to my brother, basically. So I'm like, okay, great. So I give, I had given the guy my phone number, and he calls me a couple hours later, and he tells me that he had called her at work, and she came rushing home, apologizing and crying, and begging for forgiveness, and she spilled everything to him. So he's giving me all the details. He's telling me this whole time, the way they managed to hide it by, still being home from work at normal times and stuff like that. They'd been calling into work and meeting up in hotels, taking half days, meeting up in hotels, like all this stuff. Like, it was even worse than I could have ever imagined. So I was furious. But at the same time, my husband was even madder because this girl was caught, and she was not having anything to do with him now, because her husband was so mad, and he comes home and he is furious that I would dare to get a hold of her husband. How could I do that to her? Don't I understand what this guy is like, and don't I know how mean he is? I'm like, no, obviously I don't know how mean he is, because I don't know this girl, and you're crazy if you think I have any sympathy for her. And so he told me all this stuff, and the thing is, I don't know, he is not someone that I can trust. So I don't know that any of the stuff that he was telling me was true. I don't think that these things that he claimed were happening with this girl were actually really happening. Maybe they were. If they were, that's terrible, and I'm sorry that she had to deal with that, but stay away from my husband, basically. And so, I don't know, because I don't know what he was making up and what he wasn't. The husband called me almost daily after this, because I kind of felt bad for the guy. This was all brand new to him. I had a long time to process it. He did not have a long time to process it. So, this was all brand new to him. He wanted to have a revenge affair. He wanted to talk to me about it every day. Like, he was telling me that, his wife had a drug problem and just all this stuff. And then my husband was getting mad because he's telling me, it's not right for you to be talking to this guy this much, and two wrongs don't make a right, and you need to quit talking to this guy. And I was like, listen, you don't get to tell me what I can and cannot do at this point. But so, this went on into 2018. By February of 2018, she had gotten fired from work, or quit, I'm not sure which. And then he, shortly after, in I believe March, got fired or quit. Probably for missing so much time, because they were constantly, leaving. So, they were both done. They were cut off contact from each other. I'm pretty sure that she was forced to block him by her husband. But that was it. After that, she was out of our lives. We didn't see or hear from her again. And in retrospect, I wish that had been the worst thing that happened in our marriage, because that I could have lived with, as awful as that sounds. So then, after my husband quit his job or got fired or whatever happened, he applied to go work at a place where one of my other best friends, my best friend since I was 8, her husband worked. And he ended up getting the job, and it was a much higher paying job than he had ever had before, and it was kind of a relief. I was still, don't get me wrong, I was still incredibly irritated with the whole affair situation, but like I said, by the time I found out it was still going on, it had been going on for 2 years. I was kind of numb to it at that point, and it ended, so I was like, whatever, I got my revenge, we're good. So anyway, he gets this new job, and that's when things really went off the rails. Again, like I said, if I had realized that the demise of this affair would have led to what it led to, I probably would have just let it keep going forever. But we'll get into that in the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye.